All right, ladies and gentlemen, my next guest is back on it again. It's Edel. He's a very knowledgeable person. He has a PhD in consciousness and metaphysics, so this guy knows a lot about a lot of things. How you doing, boss?
I'm good, man. I'm
Good.
good. We've been in the kitchen cooking up for tonight.
Oh yeah, it smells good. We're
Yeah.
cooking chili.
Yeah, it's a Skyline chili, Cincinnati
Yeah.
Skyline chili. It's a real treat. You'll love it.
That sounds good. I've read before that when people cook with intention, like happiness, the food comes out better.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Or if you're pissed off in cooking, it might poison the food.
Well, there's let's see here. Yeah, I'm trying to remember who they were. I'm having a little bit of a brain fart.
No problem.
But there's a philosophy that if enlightened people are cooking food for you,
Yeah.
right, and you come to their table and dine with them,
Yes.
right, you'll come to enlightenment, right? And so the Krishnas hold this philosophy. And so I remember back in '87, we were at the Rainbow Gathering in North Carolina, and I was helping out the Krishna camp, right? And of course, we were all eating the Krishna food, right? And they're putting light in the food, right?
When you
They're
mean Krishna, are they like a special religious group or?
Yeah, Krishna, Hare Krishna, you know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the guys with the robes and the little hair coming out of the top of their head and that,
Mm-hmm.
and so I have to, as a person, state that I did eat with the Krishnas, and they did tell me that those who come to their table will one day come to enlightenment, and I certainly have.
Nice.
So there's something to that. Plus, when I first came here to Sedona, my first job, I was doing my vision quest up here in Keyhole Cave, and I said, Spirit, if I'm supposed to be here, make it easy for me to be here. So I came down and went to the Coffee Pot restaurant to have lunch with a friend of mine, and I happened to mention to him that I had been a chef. And Emil, who had just bought the place, overheard me and instantly offered me a job, right? And so the word quickly got out that I was in the kitchen and I was doing Reiki over the food.
Okay.
Right?
Nice.
And so Johnny, he comes in one day and orders a Mexican pizza.
Okay.
Right? And so as the waitress is taking the Mexican pizza out to his table, I sneak up from behind her, and I go over top of his Mexican pizza, go, give him a little blast of extra light.
Nice.
So if we can recognize that everything is love light, love being vibration, feeling, the feminine aspect of God. Light being intellect, the ability to transmit information across beams of light through fiber optics, for example, right? Intellect is a masculine aspect, and therefore is the masculine aspect of God. And so I think I mentioned this before, when love and light came together, the idea of creation exploded in the mind of God that vibrated out, that became energy, became matter, became all things in creation. And so everything is love light. At its core essence, everything is love light.
Even bad people?
Everything is love light. Creator doesn't judge. Judge not, let you be judged means you're judging your own self.
Okay.
Right? So everything at its core fundamental basis is love light. No matter what Monsanto is putting in the fertilizer to put in the food to cause people to have diseases that cause them to buy this particular pharmaceutical product, if we understand that it's all love light, then our body is also love light.
Yes, it is.
Our organs are love light. And if we allow ourselves to be one with the love light, our body will take from what we eat that's necessary for our body to be sustained, and it will organically get rid of the rest.
Even though it's bad for you, your body will know the difference.
Yeah.
And just say, no, that's not bad for me. I'm still going to eat it.
Everything gets transmuted back into love light.
Okay.
So all we're actually eating is love light. So eat light.
Eat light. Yeah?
Right?
Yeah, eat light. And just say, this is good for me no matter what.
No matter what. If you're sitting there with a half gallon of ice cream, one person can say, oh, it's going to go straight to my hips, right? And sure enough.
And it will go straight to their hips.
Right. And another person says, what a beautiful example of love light. Right? No matter how much of that ice cream that person consumes, the body will only take in and absorb what it needs from that, and everything else will get organically released from the body.
Nice. Also, Let me ask you this. I was listening to someone else speak yesterday on a radio station, and they said that keep saying affirmations out loud. And
Oh,
after
yeah.
you say that for like 21 or 30 days, you will genetically change your state. Like if you say
It takes 21 days to break a habit
or create a habit.
or create a habit. And so if you're, for example, trying to stop smoking,
Yes.
21 days is the magic number, right? Because you still have this habit of bringing your fingers to your mouth, right? And that's a habit,
Yeah, that is
right?
a habit. But that's crazy that if you keep saying something, you will somehow unconsciously change your state. How does
Yeah.
that work?
Well, if you say something often enough, you'll eventually believe it.
Yes.
Okay, now look at Donald Trump, right? He has said that the election was rigged. The election was rigged, right? The election was stolen. The election was stolen, right? So now he believes in his mind that the election was stolen because he said it so many freaking times,
Right.
right? That he's convinced himself that it's now his truth, right? No matter how many people, Bill Barr comes up and says, "No, you're full of s."
Yeah,
You
you're full
know,
of shit. It's
right?
okay.
Yeah, and he says, and all this stuff. He's already said it so many times that he's convinced himself that he's got the real truth.
So technically, that is his truth,
Yeah, that is his truth.
but it's not the ultimate truth.
It's not. Yeah, in the world of other people's reality, everyone knows that. Yeah, he did lose the election.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Sorry, dude.
Yeah, sorry, man.
Get
I don't
a
know what to
clue.
Yeah.
Let the ego go.
What I meant is for like my metabolism.
Yeah.
I keep saying to myself now for 2 days, like out loud, like I have a fast metabolism. I am healthy and I have a fast metabolism. And like after 21 days, apparently, like your metabolism will automatically speed up.
Yeah, because you've convinced yourself that this is true. If you say something often enough, it's like also even magical words.
What's a magical word?
Kadosh, 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 Adonai Sabaoth.
What about
Yeah. Satnam that the Sufis say when they do the fire breath. Right? These are words that have been said for thousands and thousands of years. So they have their own strength, their own power. They have the belief that is behind everyone who's ever spoken it, right, to support these words. Okay, and so if you can affirm in yourself that you are a divine being of light. One of the affirmations that I use, that I even still today speak, is I, Walter Soaring Eagle, am a radiant light being. My atoms are vibrating toward the speed of light. Each day that I wake to greet the sun, my body grows a day younger.
Nice, and you grow it slowly, or you don't even grow; you grow younger.
Well, if every day you grow a day younger, you're the same age.
Okay.
You maintain the same age.
Yeah. Yeah, that actually makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. And so, words have power, right? And if
They
you
do.
know the word is the will, ask and you shall receive, right? And so, if you're asking for the good of all, according to the free will of all, so mote it be. And so those words become powerful and they manifest, right? So it's like I often tell a story about me having a friend, Patty Capel, known as also as Patty Lightflower now. And she's a very gifted palmist and tarotist. And she took me out of an unpleasant situation years and years ago, back around 1980, and brought me into her home. And the first thing she did was hand me the Kabbalion, which is the Hermetic philosophy.
You told me about that.
Right?
And she was going to the store. Or no, she was going to work.
Going to work to make $20 in tips as a
Right,
waitress.
she made 100, right?
Yeah, she came home with 100
Nice.
instead of 20.
So it's 5 times more effective?
Right. And so every time I've spoken those words, 13 times was in her own behalf where she has asked because she was, needing income.
And what was the name of the book one more time, just for the
The
record?
Kabbalion, Kyblion,
The Kabbalion.
by 3 Initiates, Yoga Publishing Company, Masonic Temple, Chicago.
Nice. And it's a blue book.
Little blue book.
I remember that.
Yeah, little blue
Yeah.
book. And so every time I've spoke these words for her, within 24 hours, $100 showed up. One time her brother showed up that I had just spoken it. Her brother, who she hadn't seen in 3 years, showed up at her doorstep and gave her $100 for Christmas. And a few months ago, we spoke on the phone. She turned 70. And I called her, for her birthday, and she says, "Yeah, money still comes in all the time." And I says, "Do you keep telling that story?" And I says, "Yes, because it's still true." You know,
Nice.
unto those who would look upon the face of one Patty Capel shall know they have seen the face of kindness and generosity, and so be moved by those emotions. Right? And since she still is this kind, generous person, people are moved to help her out and do kindnesses for her.
Good.
Right? So the
Right.
word is the will. Ask and you shall receive. That's the fundamental basis to all magic. Right? It's like when I was explaining that during the Rodney King riots.
That you started rain.
Yeah, I invoked rain. Right? The word is the will. Ask you shall receive. I knew that the Cherubium angels and the archangel Sandalphon rule over Malkuth in the tree of life, right, which rules over the elements of earth, air, fire, and water. And so with their help and assistance, I was able to activate myself as a low pressure center by activating my crown chakra in a counterclockwise direction, which is the motion of a low pressure system.
That's the seventh chakra, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. And so by doing this invocation that I did, which was stated, I asked that they bring all the moisture within 500 miles through my crown chakra, which is spinning counterclockwise, so that I might be the center of a low-pressure system that would bring upon the city of Los Angeles rain. That would help put out the fires that have overwhelmed 500 alarms, would create an unpleasant environment for rioting and looting, and wash away the negative emotions so the healing could begin. That was the exact invocation. Within 6 hours, it rained for 5 days. Ask and you shall receive. Right?
Right.
You got to know this stuff true in your heart.
Like, can you apply the same thing for people that are in pain, suffering, have cancer?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what I want to get to. That's why I started this podcast. Because honestly, I've seen people heal themselves. Maybe not through affirmations, maybe that too, but they're able to do meditation.
Okay, my sister Carolyn was in Bethesda North Hospital in Fairfield, Ohio.
Okay.
I was in Atlanta. She was in a coma.
You said you went under. Yeah.
Yeah, so she had gone into a major epileptic seizure, and they put her into a phenobarbital coma. And they had told the family that if she comes out of the coma, you can expect that she'll be 50% brain damaged. Right?
Okay.
And so I went from Atlanta to Cincinnati, went up to Fairfield, went to the hospital, went to her room, and I did axiotonal on her, right, which is connecting you back into your divine source.
Is that another form of Reiki, or it's similar?
Well, all the Reiki masters that I've trained, they like to call it Reiki 4. It's kind of like a cross between Reiki and acupuncture,
Okay.
right?
You actually touch them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then I went outside and I smoked my pipe and I prayed my pipe for my sister.
And you went under her, right? You said also under her building or under her floor.
No, I went. No, I went to her room, did the axiotonal on her in her room.
Mm-hmm.
I went outside, like 3 stories down on the ground floor outside, where I could see her window, and I prayed my pipe.
Nice.
And in that pipe, I asked for her spirit to come and heal her of all of her maladies. And within an hour, she came out of the coma and went on to get a college degree at 50 years old.
No brain damage.
No brain damage. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And
did the doctors thank you? Yeah, right.
The nurses
did. Really?
Nurses knew exactly what went down.
Really?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Nurses kind of have that intuition. The doctors are too pretentious.
Yeah, a little bit. So, I mean, there's a woman who had terminal cancer down in Palm Bay, Florida. Her husband Mikey asked if I would come and give her a Cherokee name. She wanted to die with a Cherokee name because she had a little Cherokee blood in her.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went and did a naming ceremony where I gave her the name Singing Raven, right? Which actually turned out to have meaning for her. And afterwards, after I did that ceremony, I then did axiotonal on her. And her cancer vanished. Her doctors were dumbfounded. She had a total remission of a terminal cancer. And this is like 15, 16 years ago, and I still haven't heard that she's passed. And I know people who would know if she's passed. Right?
So she's still kicking, and she's well.
Yeah. Tim Wainbright, retired Air Force. He was one of our members in the American Legion Riders. And he's on a double lung transplant list. This guy absorbs 10% of the oxygen that he breathes in. Right? And so he came to my house. I was doing a talk. I did actually tonal on him. Within a week, he came off his meds. And we still communicate on Facebook.
Okay.
I mean, miracles happen so freaking fast.
But it's not a miracle. It's someone doing something.
Well,
Well, it's still a miracle, I
yeah,
say.
but if we come to that point of understanding where we recognize that everything is God in manifestation,
Right.
everything is love light, right? Love is the feminine aspect because it's vibration. Everything vibrates. All these little atoms in your body are spinning like a little mother, right? And thought, intellect is the masculine aspect, right? And if we finally recognize that everything that exists is God in manifestation, then we recognize that the only substantial reality is God itself, the divine itself. I don't care what name you give it, what language you speak, what religion you have, that which is before all else was. All right? The Kabbalists call it the all.
The all.
Because it simply is all.
Yeah.
Okay? So, if we can recognize that we are this aspect of the all in manifestation, then can these be anything but the hands of God?
They can be the hands of God.
All you have to do is know that in your heart, and they are.
Yeah.
That's what Jesus knew. Right, Yeshua.
I always say we have the power of God within us.
Yeah, because we are this aspect of God. There's no part of you that isn't God.
Yeah.
Right? The only thing that keeps you from recognizing that's your freaking ego.
It's my ego and all the things that people told me growing up as a kid.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a part of my ego.
That's part of the programming.
Yeah.
That's part of human programming.
What's a good way to get out of that programming? Affirmations?
Affirmations help.
Meditation?
Meditation's great. I mean,
Psilocybin mushrooms?
I did 3,000 acid trips.
Woo! Wonderland.
Breaking through those veils can be tough.
Yeah.
Especially for the older generations. I mean, that's why the LSD showed up when it did, because there's a lot of veil to break through.
For the older generations, yeah. I agree. Now, do you feel like more people are becoming more spiritual and just breaking through those veils than ever?
Yeah, because it's easier now. The veils are getting so thin that it's easier to break through.
Is it because there's a lot more information, a lot more people helping each other?
Well, let me also put it to you this way.
The veils are still there.
Okay, there's a big veil that we have over planet Earth called the ozone. In 1958, they measured it, they discovered it, and it was 13.5 miles thick. Now it's less than 3 miles thick. Okay? The ozone filters out high vibrations of light, X-ray, infrared, gamma ray, right? These higher vibrations of light transmits higher levels of information. The higher the vibration, the higher the information is. All right? And so, as we were in 58, just coming out of the Second World War, right? Now we have the beatniks that became the hippies, right? Now we got the love generation happening.
The 60s,
right?
Yeah.
And people started popping acid, right?
Yeah.
Started cracking through the veils, and the ozone started thinning out. Now, on the physiological three-dimensional level, they want to blame that on fluorocarbons, right? It is... The ozone's diminishing because there's more of us on Earth who are achieving enlightenment, who are coming to a more lighter consciousness, right? And so, if we can think that the Earth Mother is a conscious being, the Earth itself, and that your brain and my brain are brain cells in the Earth Mother, right? My friend John Armbruster, who's no longer with us, was very influential here in Sedona back in the day. He was a doctor of geology. He had a master's in geology. Anyway, he postulated that when there's 10 billion people on Earth, the Earth Mother will have a complete brain, complete mind, because we have 10 billion brain cells. As above, so below.
As above, so below. I heard that yesterday,
right?
too.
And so, if the highest thought that me or others are thinking adds to that collective consciousness of humans on Earth. And so when someone goes searching for information, it's easier for them to reach up in the ethers and grab that and bring it down and implement it into the consciousness.
You mean like finding a way to see beyond the veil?
Yeah, because there's more of us thinking in light consciousness than there had been in the 50s or in the 20s or whenever, right?
Yeah.
And so because there's so many now, it's just that much easier for people to grasp that information. There's more people talking about it. There's more people exposing you to it, right? And you cross paths with something 3 times, you got to say, there's something to this.
100%. That I
Right?
agree with 100%.
Right.
Like random remission.
Yeah. And so the more of us who attain enlightenment, the easier it is for everyone else to attain enlightenment.
Right.
Okay, especially in a place like Sedona, where you have a higher per capita number of people who are seeking enlightenment, unlike you would be in LA or in Salt Lake City or Las Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, definitely not in Vegas.
The vibration's very dense there because these people are so worried about making a living. Worrying about their spiritual reality is
not on the table.
way off the charts,
Mm-hmm.
right? But there's a lot of people here, and so you have a higher percentage of people thinking in higher thought, which provides for this overall collective consciousness more of a yes you can rather than you'll go to hell for that. Don't read that book, you'll go to hell.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing, right?
Definitely.
Yeah. So there's more of, magic works here. So, for example, like magic, people who knew how to do magic typically would do that in the wee hours of the morning.
Yeah, between 1 to 3.
Yeah, because everyone's asleep.
I heard it's because their serotonin levels are high.
Well, that's higher for them, but the point of it is that when people are asleep and in their dream time,
Mm-hmm.
they're actually in their higher self state. They're actually experiencing the higher experiences. Okay?
Okay.
And because of that, there's more of a yes you can at 3 o'clock in the morning than a no you can't. Right? You try to do it at 12 o'clock in the afternoon, and everybody's focused on their little realities. I got to make money, got to make money, got to make money, got to make. My girlfriend don't love me anymore. I'm freaking out, right? And there's all this weird shit going on.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's hard to rise above that negative energy that's happening to do something extraordinary. Right? And so that's why I had to leave L.A. and go over to Idlewild, California, where there's very few people, and there's probably a lot of hippies over there.
Is that Northern California? Idlewild?
No, Idlewild's just above Palm Springs. But it's up in the mountains. It's up higher in a higher level.
Is it closer to Joshua Tree?
It's on the other side of the interstate.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's a little bit away from it.
Okay.
But it's right in the mountains above Palm Springs. And so where I was a very limited number of people, right? We're at a higher vibration or a higher altitude, right? Mm-hmm. We're closer to those higher frequencies of light coming down. And so magic was easier to do there than it was, in the middle of the riot.
Didn't you say a story about how 2 kids came up to visit you guys and you guys threw some green stuff in a pot you're cooking and they thought you guys were doing legit magic?
Oh, no. What it was that was with the Elflor family, and
they panicked?
Yeah, they freaked out. We had just bought 109 acres of land in Needmore, Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
And we did a right to raw that day because we had 10 inches of snow coming our way, and we wanted to create a high pressure system so we could push the snow away so we wouldn't freeze our asses off. Right? Of course, all the farmers noticed that their 10 inches of snow didn't show up, and they heard all this chanting. And so they start checking us out. They start showing up. And
open-minded or just curious?
No, they were like, we're Satanists. They're Bible-thumping Baptist.
But did they realize that you're helping them? Or they didn't see past that?
No. What they saw is their ground needed that 10 inches of snow for saturation for their crops.
Oh.
And we blocked it so 75 people wouldn't freeze on camping out.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
So later that night, we're all a little bit of alchemists. We throw a little copper oxide in the fire.
And turned it green?
and the flames turn green. Right? Just like you make fireworks.
Yeah.
It's because they have various metals, silver and copper and zinc and various things that when they get hot, they turn this particular color. And so these kids came up in a pickup truck and, going to check out what are the hippies doing over here, right?
Yeah.
And the first thing they come to is a green fire.
They panicked.
They freaked out. They had no idea how somebody could have a green fire, so they spun around and left.
It's basic physics.
Yeah.
I mean, not physics, chemistry.
Chemistry, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that was a pretty cool moment.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so
Let me.
we're all on a journey, and our journeys. If something happens that gets us thinking outside that paradigmic box, that's what Sedona is all about.
That
Because
is.
Sedona has these vortexes which create a psychic amplifier, right? And there's 6 million people a year coming here. And so the invocation we did on top of Sugarloaf Mountain in the center of the medicine wheel up there is that unto anyone who had passed through this medicine wheel for even a moment would have their DNA activated, stimulated, and awakened. Right, so now they're seeing something in the rock that gets them questioning stuff. Now they might get that first astrology reading or that first tarot reading, or they'll find themselves overhearing a conversation in a restaurant, and all of a sudden the table over here is having the same fucking conversation, and what's with this stuff?
Yeah.
Right, and then it gets them, questioning where they're at on their spiritual place. Right, and if they ask a question that's outside the limitations of their spiritual dogma. Right, now they got 1 foot outside the box. They get an answer to that question, and they follow up with another question. Now they got both feet outside that box.
They're outside the box.
They're outside the box. They're on a spiritual path.
Is that what most people would call awakening?
Yeah,
You're waking up. That there's some shit there.
Yeah, you're starting to wake up.
Yeah.
Right, and so it's a very gentle process. We don't have to go invade a people, put a gun to their head, says you're going to believe in Jesus Christ or you're dead,
or
we're going to send you straight to hell,
or Allah, or whatever it is.
Right? Yeah, and so rather than do that, right, which is quite offensive, we just nudge you a little bit, and if we can place a seed of light in your heart, if we can get you to ask that one question that activates that seed of light in your heart, that light. If your heart's a fertile place, will grow into the tree of life, and you'll become enlightened. Right? So we don't have to be a guru. Gee, you are you. We don't need a guru, right? I like to refer to myself as a Jimmy. Gee, I am I.
Gee.
Right? And I don't have to take you to enlightenment. I just got to stimulate your thinking so you'll start asking questions. The more questions you ask, the more you're moving into a path. Right? And I don't have to take you to enlightenment. I just got to get you to ask that first damn question. That gets you outside the box.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes sense. Or you could ask them something simple as, who are you?
As a spiritual being, right?
Yeah, as a spiritual being.
Yeah.
Tell me a little more. My friend was asking about this, the sage. Can you explain how there's negative energy and then you do the sage and it gets rid of the negative energy? What's the science behind that?
Well, Artemisia sage, which is typically your sage brush, right? It's also called Chernobyl.
And you can buy it on Amazon. Yeah.
Right. Where Chernobyl is sage. Right. Anyway, Artemisia sage is actually an expectorant, right? And so when we use it in sweat lodge, for example, we breathe it into our nose, and we inhale the sage, which gets into our lungs, it gets into our blood, it gets into our lymphatic system, and it's pushing out the toxins through our sweat glands. Okay? And so it also has been determined that while burning sage, it converts negative ions to positive ions. That's scientifically been proven.
Is that because there's two negative ions? A negative and negative becomes a positive, or?
No, it's just that it just flips a negative ion to a positive ion.
Okay.
Right? And so if you're moving into a house, you know nothing about what's happening in that house.
Sage the shit out of it.
Smudge the hell out of it.
Smudge.
Yep.
That's what they say, smudge,
right?
Yeah.
Because there could have been arguments in there, there could have been fighting in there.
There's been somebody died in there.
Yeah, someone could have died in there, right?
Yeah.
And so you want to clear all that energy so that you can make this home your home, especially moving around from apartment to apartment, like that kind of a thing, right?
Yeah.
You always want to do some saging first because that'll shift all those negative energies into positive energies, right?
Yeah. And what about Palo Santo?
And look, Palo Santo works the same way. Frankincense, myrrh, right? You understand that if you have something that has a pleasant fragrance, fragrance is actually something that can be experienced in this dimension and the higher dimensions, right? And so it's like the breath of the invisible, the tobacco, right? But tobacco has a sweet smell, and the spirit world enjoys that fragrance, and it's a gift to them. So when we burn tobacco, we're giving the spirits, especially if we've called them in, we're giving them this gift of this lovely fragrance,
Okay.
right? And in turn, they want to do something kind for us, right? And so we put out a prayer for someone who's in need.
Or intention,
And,
yeah.
Yeah. And they're saying, okay, well, you gave me this lovely gift of this fragrance. I'm going to go over here and see if I can't help your friend out.
Got it. And one more thing. You said that waking up is a pleasant process. I've seen people do Kundalini breath for the first time, and they just exploded. What are your thoughts on that?
Well,
Just releasing all that energy out of them that was trapped for years and years.
yeah, well, Chief Little Summer made this comment. The most important thing anyone can do on earth is to awaken the Kundalini and make conscious contact with the higher self. The second most important thing anyone can do is to help another do the same. Because if we're all opening ourselves up to our higher self, then we're all coming from our God space. We're all coming from our angelic space, right? And so, as an honor to Chief Little Summer, who trained me in shamanic Kundalini, which is a means by which we actually bring the Kundalini outside the body. We create an etheric door at the base of our spine that's very solid and safe. Like I was saying, mine's a submarine hatch.
Oh,
Right?
you twist it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I got a key lock in it to make sure it stays shut.
Yeah.
Right? But around that is what looks like a glass tube, but really it's an extension of the silver cord, which comes out of the base of your spine and it spirals around your body. And each time it passes through your body in a conical spiral, it passes through the flower stem of each of the chakras. So when the white light comes out, it activates that chakra. The light comes in, comes up your spine, goes out the top of your head, and it forms a rainbow aura of divine protection around you. And then when it finally reaches the top of your head, you, from your mind's point of view, you see a column of white light. You simply step into the light, right? And then you, like going up an elevator to the higher self chakra, into the golden orb, where you can ask any question you could ever want to know.
And all the answers are there.
Or everything.
Everything.
You're like got a mainframe computer right there, right?
But it's the past, present, and future.
Yeah, it's all. Yeah, you go anywhere you want to go if you get into the right state of consciousness.
That's mind blowing.
Yeah.
But it's possible.
Yeah. The Eastern method of Kundalini brings the Kundalini straight up the spine.
Okay.
Right? And it could take years and years of practice and dedication to learn how to do this
Properly, yeah.
right? If you have a, let's say you fell on your Cossack bone and it cracked the hell open, all of a sudden you're a pile of ashes because it's literally a star.
That happens to my mom. Or my sister's wedding. She fell and broke her tailbone.
Yeah.
At the wedding night.
Well, she didn't go up a ball of fire, did she?
No, she didn't become a ball of fire. She just went to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was out for months.
Well, the Cossack bone's that very last little triangle bone. That's where the Kundalini rests. And it's literally the star that you are, because you came from a star. Your essence of who you are came from a star that came into this body the moment the umbilical cord was cut. Because that child has existed through the energy of the mother's Kundalini, her star. And you can't bring two stars together in the same place. You might have a really bad nuclear explosion.
Yeah.
Right?
What about quantum entanglement? Is that like two consciousness being entangled with each other or two atoms?
Everything has consciousness because everything is God.
Yes.
Everything's the divine, right? What do you call it? Allah, Jehovah, Yahweh, Massa,
Jedi.
Wakantanka. It's all this that is before all else was. Right? If your definition of God is all that is before all else was, then it doesn't matter what you call it. Right? It's what the definition of that is. How do you define that mastery of beingness? So you got two electrons that are doing a dance, becoming a molecule, right? and another atom comes flying through space and whacks it and shoots it off to another place,
Mm-hmm.
right? The time that those two atoms spent together, the electrons and the neutrons, the time they spent together, they became aware of each other, right? And because of that, they have this bond, this energetic connection. Everything in creation is connected by axiotonal lines. It's like the astral fiber optic network that links everything to God consciousness. Every subatomic particle is linked through axiotonal lines. Every atom, every molecule, every rock, every plant, every animal, every human, every being is connected by axiotonal lines. In the human case, humanity chose to go into this game of separation. Right? God's out there somewhere. I'm all important. I'm going to name all the animals. Oh, I just named them animals. How cool. Right? And ego ran amok because ego can't grasp the idea that it doesn't actually exist.
Yeah, that's where
Everything it is isn't. Everything is mind. Everything is mental. Everything it is isn't. We flash 3,000 times in and out of this reality every second. Right? The quantum theorists want to think that we're in a parallel universe when we're not here.
So they admit that when we go out and come back.
Yeah, that's what the quantum theorists are perceiving, right? That we're in a parallel universe when we're not here. So 1/3000th of a second here, 1/3000th of a second there, 1/3000th of a second here, right? The Hermetics are saying that when we're not here, we are not at all. Which brings up the point of the faith of a mustard seed. Because a mustard seed is very tiny. But if you can just hit the ground, get a little dirt on it, get a raindrop to hit it, it can stick out a little root and become a tree. Right?
Yes.
And so if in this moment I come to you and I offer you the opportunity to receive a miracle, whatever that situation in your life might be, right, where something's really messed up, right? And you finally come to the point at a given moment where you're going to allow yourself to be loved by God, that you're going to remove all your self-judgments, and in that moment, you're going to allow yourself to experience the unconditional love of God. And you go into that 1/3000th of a second where you are not at all, you come back as the living miracle. It takes 1/3000th of a second to create a miracle.
Okay. So less than a second, safe to say, to create a miracle. That's how fast thought travels. Got it. Right. And on the last note, what do you think people could do just to better their lives? Let's say they're in a shitty situation, they're sad, depressed. What advice would you be able to give them? Breathe. Know you have the power of God in you.
Okay. This will help everyone. In the ancient times, the rabbis and the high priest would go into the sacred temples once a year and speak the unspoken name of the God of life. That name is
breath.
It's literally the breath of life.
The breath of life.
So every time you breathe, you're invoking the name of the God of life. So every time you breathe, you're having a spiritual experience. If you can just stop long enough to just breathe God into you, breathe God out of you, breathe God into you, right? That breath, if you are consciously aware that you're speaking the name of God by simply breathing, then how can you not have a spiritual experience with every breath you take? And how warm does your heart become knowing that you are speaking the name of God with every breath?
Got it. Yeah, that's a great way to end it. You're absolutely right. Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Always happy to be on your podcast.
Subscribe. I will definitely do this again sometime. Thank you again. I appreciate it.
All right. Cool beans.
Yeah.
Yeah. I got cool beans in the chili too.